Today I'm bringing you along for a sourdough adventure where I do sourdough with extended fermentation.
Well, hi guys, welcome back to Linda's Pantry. And today I'm gonna do a recipe for you that was a request. So I showed you a loaf of beautiful sourdough bread and I wanted to bring you along for the recipe and two ways to do this. So I'm gonna do a quick method to have just a delicious bread that has a mild sourdough flavor, and then I'm going to do a long ferment, and so we get the really strong sourdough flavor. So I'm gonna bring you along for the recipe. It's super easy. Come on in and let me show you. So I'm gonna show you one bowl. I'm making two batches of dough because one of them, the bread's gonna be sold. So I'm making two batches, one for us and one to sell. And so this is 3.5 cups of all-purpose flour and a good 2.5 teaspoons of fine sea salt. You want fine salt, and that way it distributes evenly. And then this is my starter, and this was from this morning. I fed it this morning, and now using it will feed it again. And you can already tell when you start working with it, bubbles start popping. It's so active. In fact, I had brought the starter out of the fridge, fed it, and last night, and by this morning it overflowed its container. So this is what I pulled off. I'm gonna put that in there, and I use a hefty amount, about 3/4 of a cup of starter. So you'll need less liquid. Normally, if I didn't have starter, I would be using, if you didn't have starter, you can adapt this recipe and just make a bread, which is very good. This bread is so good. And that starter is nice and sour, and so I really want that flavor. So I've got garlic, dried rosemary, and Parmesan cheese. Oh my goodness, yes please. And the garlic, I've tried to guesstimate how much I use. I'm gonna say this is 2 heaping tablespoons of garlic. And I use this. Fresh garlic doesn't work quite as well, so this garlic is perfect. Okay, and I'm gonna set this aside because I'm doing another loaf off camera for you. So I've got the garlic, and then the rosemary. I love rosemary in bread, and you can kind of break this up. But you're literally going to use about 1/4 of a cup of rosemary. So delicious. And if it looks like I want more when I mix this up, I'll do that. And then the grated Parmesan cheese. I'm going to split this between the 2 loaves. I do have some that I can grate up on a block, but you want about 1 cup of Pullman. So we're gonna split that up. And Parmesan, and then we're gonna start mixing. I know I'm gonna need water, and I want lukewarm filtered water. So this is lukewarm, it's not even warm. And I'm gonna add, you're gonna need a wet, shaggy dough. So because the starter is wet, and usually, like I said, if I wasn't using starter, it'd be 3/4 of a cup of water to 3.5 cups of flour. But because I've got the starter in there, this is great because I can do pizza dough. I can do a small boule of bread for us with a quick, a pretty quick ferment, and bake it off tomorrow. The other one though, I will be leaving in the fridge. I'm gonna leave this on the counter overnight. And you want a shaggy dough, but on the wet side, still where you get some shag to it. Does that make sense? I don't even know if that makes sense to some people. Don't know what I'm saying. So pick up all the flour that's in the bowl. That's really all I want. So and sometimes you just have to let it sit until it decides that it's gonna pick that flour up. You don't want the dough too dry or you just won't get a nice. I do have my proofing oven on, so the proof setting on my oven is on. If you accidentally get it too wet, throw some flour in there. I just don't think you can get it too wet because we're gonna have to do some stretch and pulls here. And I really feel like I want more rosemary, believe it or not. I'm gonna put some more. So we're gonna say 1/3 of a cup of dried rosemary. No, probably a heaping quarter of a cup. You just wanna see those sprigs in there. You can use fresh for this if you wanna spend that. It's a little bit spendy. I feel like this, because it's fermenting that long, or sitting as long as it does and proofing, it has a chance to rehydrate and come back to life. And it just delivers a really mild, beautiful rosemary flavor, and it smells wonderful. It makes the best toast. Okay, so there's my shaggy dough. I'm gonna cover this with saran, and when I go to do the stretch and pulls, it will pull everything off the sides. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this in the proofing oven, and I'm gonna, and I'll tell you how much water I used, because I had 1.5 cups in here. So I actually used I almost used 3/4 of a cup. So there you go. This bread is very forgiving. It's very easy. So if you're a beginner, don't be scared. Jump in. It's just flour. So in the proofing oven, until they just about double in size, and then we'll start doing our stretch and folds. Okay, it's gonna be delicious. Okay, so it's time to stretch the dough. So I've got my hands dampened with water, and you're just gonna go in there, and pull it away and stretch, and it's gonna be sticky, and it's okay. And then just rotate your bowl every time you do that. And we're gonna do this every half hour. Oh my gosh. And the garlic and the rosemary smell is divine. So this is gonna develop the gluten and how chewy that bread is. It's gonna develop all of that. So this one is done, and by the next time we won't have any of this sticking to our hands, and it'll pull a lot of this off the bowl, although it's trying to pull it away right now. The stuff that's still damp, it's pulling it away. So this is gonna go back in the proofing oven. I'm gonna do the other bowl, and I'll be back. When we're done, we're gonna do 3 more of these. No, 2 more. 2 more stretches. So here I am working with the dough, forming the balls. I did all the stretches I needed to do. And of course the camera wasn't on, but here we are. So you're just shaping the dough balls and getting a nice form to them. I floured the inside of the bannetons, so they shouldn't stick to the inside. Generously flour that and seal that top. That top will be your bottom when it's all said and done. And then those, after I get these all formed, are gonna go, and that's the loaf, the big loaf. I also got that one done off camera. So yeah, I just get these folded, do a little bit of kneading, and you're ready to form it into a dough ball and get them into their resting place for the next couple of days. So now I'm putting the one dough ball that I kept out. I did 4. So this one is going in, and they're rather small, but it's going in the hot Dutch oven, preheated to 450 degrees, as you can see on the readout. In the pan it goes, the Dutch oven. Put the lid back on, and we're gonna cook this first one off.
and see how it comes out with no extra rise or fermentation time.
Okay, so after I formed the dough and I got some in the fridge, I put 3 boules in the fridge, is that right? And 1 loaf in the fridge. So tomorrow, and I cooked this one off fresh. So it had the bulk ferment overnight, and then I did the Dutch oven method in the oven, hot Dutch oven. And tomorrow I'll cook off 1 of the boules after they've been in a cold ferment, because this just had the bulk fermentation out on the counter. Then the following day I'll do the next one, and the following day I'll do the next one, and we'll see how the sourdough develops and how the texture develops. So I may or may not include that in this video. Maybe I'll do the taste tests along the way, and then you can see exactly what's going to happen. So right now though, come on in and I'm going to show you the texture of this bread. It's cooled off completely, and it's just a little boule like what you would serve at dinner or at lunch next to a salad. All right. Okay, so let's cut into this. I'm just going to cut right down the middle, and you've got a nice crust on it. And the bottom crust definitely gets, it's a little harder. I'm gonna do this method I read about on the next bread. I forgot to do it, where you actually, there we go. So it's kind of a close crumb. It's not a real heavy crumb. It's got areas where you've got the rosemary and the cheese in there, but it looks pretty elastic. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut off a slice. We'll just cut this one. Maybe, and cut my finger. Let's not do that part. There we go, okay. And I'm gonna get a different knife to get that. Okay, so here's our bread with the butter. I love the chewiness and the texture on the outside. And it's got a sour flavor. You can taste the rosemary and the garlic. Wow. I would like to see a little more open crumb, so a little more rise to it. We'll see what tomorrow brings. But oh my goodness, this is really good bread. So, yeah, it's just wants to spring back. Absolutely wonderful. I hope you try it. Anyway, I'll give you a look at the bread in the morning and bake off another loaf. And then the last ones I will go ahead and I'll show you another day. If you've made this bread before, leave me a comment in the comment section. If you've never made bread before, leave me a comment. Any tips or tricks you might have? We can all learn something from each other. All right. Okay guys, so this is the last day that I'm gonna do anything with this video, but I still have 2 of the small boules out in the refrigerator. One of them I'm gonna use for pizza dough, and then one of them I'll bake off. I may bake them off, and I might actually roll them out and stuff them with a little bit more cheese, because honestly, this could use a little more cheese. So this is the loaf, and I cut it while it was still warm because I couldn't wait, but I baked this off in the hot Dutch oven. Started out at 500 degrees and then knocked it down to in 10 minutes knocked it down to 450. And I put rice underneath the parchment paper, just a thin layer of rice to keep the bottom crust from getting too overdone. And look, it's split. We have nice earthquake splits in it. The crumb was absolutely chewy. It has definitely got a major sourdough flavor. So that being said, I said, well, then I'm gonna bake off the other loaf. It's still warm. And again, I did the rice underneath. So this is a really rustic loaf that's gonna go to work. Very good rosemary flavor, but the intense sourdough flavor is there. So that was overnight on the counter for a bulk fermentation, and then in the refrigerator all that day and the next day. So it's a two days in the refrigerator, and now, or no, 1 full day. So now the next one that I bake off will be 2 full days. Is that right? Yeah, with the bulk fermentation plus 2 full days. So it's very confusing, but I'm super happy with the experiment. I am going to be making, and I'll do the video because I know a lot of you miss some of the videos, so I'm gonna go ahead and bring you along. But I'm gonna make, with the sourdough starter, my regular recipe that I roll out. I do a shaggy dough, kind of start out the same, only I'm not gonna do a bulk fermentation. I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick bread, and it's gonna be fresh rosemary and Asiago cheese. So stay tuned for rosemary and Asiago. It's coming up, I can't wait. And that Asiago cheese has such a sharp bite to it. I think it's gonna be really good to have that with bread, and yeah. And I'm hoping that my friend enjoys his loaf of bread. All right, you guys, I can't wait to see you next time. Leave me a comment and let me know if you've done this before. And I would have liked this to have sprung more. It's not a very lofty loaf. I'm not sure why it didn't, but I don't know. If one of you know out there, let me know down below. All right.
So I hope you enjoyed this little adventure that I've been on this weekend.